Hi, welcome to Candy Chronicles. Today I want to talk about unemployment. I just got back from a volunteer job and I absolutely adore it. Had been looking, I don't have a paid job right now, but I had been looking for positions that I wanted, and a lot of them required administrative experience. And I didn't have any administrative experience because what I do, what my skill set is, when I go in there, they want to use my skill set. They don't want me to work in administration. So I went to a totally different venue. I went to get a volunteer job because the thing is, the world may run out of money to pay you to do a job. You know, it's a possibility that the world could run out of money, but the world is never going to run out of work. So I go, and all I do is answer phones, and they are so grateful, and they tell me how wonderful I am and how much they appreciate me. So I strongly suggest that anybody who's a victim of being unemployed go ahead and seek out a volunteer opportunity, because at the very least it's a big ego boost. It makes you feel good because they're very grateful that you're there, and it's a good opportunity to round out your skills if you do know, as I did, that you have holes in your resume, you have experience that you need. If you are working for free, they're willing to give you a shot. Hey, try this. So that's good. For example, I had a friend who was in banking and he had a degree, and he didn't want to get himself into a job where he was underemployed. He didn't want to just get any job because he did have a degree and he wanted to be in banking. So a lot of times the big wigs at places are on boards of nonprofit things. And especially if you go through LinkedIn, LinkedIn is great. Now we can go and look at other people's resumes. You'll be amazed that the most successful people, if you look at their timeline and where they're working, I think I've known somebody that was actually employed at 8 different places over a period of years. Some of those are serial entrepreneurs where they start a business and then they get it rolling and they're the boss there, and they kind of step away, and then they start another business, and then they start another business. But a lot of them are a lot of really successful people. You'll see they'll have their paid job and they'll have a volunteer job. Some of them have 1 or 2 volunteer jobs. Another thing you can do if you really don't have time, let's say you have to take care of kids and you don't have time to really do a volunteer job where it would cost you more money to do it than the experience you would get, is some of these places you can sign up on a list and just do one event. Grandma or somebody could watch the kids. Where, for example, I did in Westchester, New York, I did Top Hat and Tails. I walk dogs. One time I cleaned up a dog park, just one day. Of course, a lot of people I know do like feeding the homeless, go work at soup kitchens on holidays. There are special times of need for everything. I have another friend who worked at a like in the summertime at a forest, at a national forest, and so these are things that you can put on your resume. You can build a really firm resume. It can fill that gap if you do have gaps in your employment where, okay, from this time to this time I was employed. If you've been unemployed for 2 years, that's a long time. But if you can have a volunteer job where, yeah, I was unemployed, but I was working for these people, and those people can give you references, and those people can talk about your character. And another thing is some of the great places, some of the best places that I've worked that have the best reputation, they're not allowed to give references. So that's another good reason, even when I'm employed, I try to have a volunteer job that I do, And the great thing is, the place where I'm working now, they actually called me and asked me to come in. And they wanted somebody between this time period, but I got to pick my days. I told them, okay, I can do it 2 days a week. And they were so happy with 2 days a week. So, if I know when you have kids, you send them off to mom's day out, or you send them off to school and you think, I'm going to get all this done. And then the time ends and you haven't finished, you haven't done the dishes, you haven't done the laundry, you haven't done anything. So I know how that is. But if you can just spare 1 or 2 hours once a week at this volunteer, because personally, I think if you're a mom, even if you have a degree, it's not a waste of your degree to stay home and raise your kids. That's you raising your own kids. That's the best thing you can do. But when I was raising kids, I always definitely had a volunteer job. And a lot of times that was at the school. And one of the times I was volunteering at the school just doing something random. Then they found out what skills I had. Then they started using me as skills. And as a mom, sometimes that was good because I did in at least 2 different places where, when I was dropping off for school, they'd come out to me at car line and say, hey, can you stay today? We have, this person had an emergency. Can you stay? And that was great. And then again, it wasn't my child's teacher. It was another grade. And then I had another person who could give me a reference, who could say fabulous things about me. And again, when you volunteer, they're very, very, very grateful. So sometimes we are a victim of being unemployed. And let's say years ago, I used to see a lot of people who were very underemployed. And it's a tough thing it's tough to try to get, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're underemployed and you're spending so much time, so many hours a week doing this underemployed job. But there are only so many hours in a day and in a week that you can really, really job hunt, unless you are looking nationally or internationally where you're traveling. There's only so many hours in a day that you can work on your resume and actually apply for jobs. But you can always network. Make sure you talk to neighbors and friends and in your volunteer job. And I suggest, whether it's a volunteer job or any job you get, the first thing you do, even if they don't hand it to you, is look at that organizational chart. Look at who is the boss. So when the boss walks in, you know their name and that they're important, right? And I always try to, nowadays you can look at LinkedIn files. Sometimes my bosses don't have LinkedIn files, but I try to talk to people and try to get to know what their interests are and what they like, and see if I can make connections with them. Like, let's say, for example, that person who was a friend of mine who worked at the zoo, then he can talk to somebody at the zoo who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you can get introduced that way. Because another way I see people declare themselves a victim, nobody can get those jobs. You have to know somebody. Well, how do you think you get to know somebody? You go. Imagine I've never done it, but I've imagined doing it. Some of these things where you can own like 1 share of stock, and then you're invited to the shareholder meeting, and you go to the shareholder meeting, you can meet people, you can introduce yourself. Charity events are great. One of these things where they're having a big event for $95 a plate dinner, offer to, park cars, or offer to bus tables, or offer to sweep floors. Then you're in there where the people who you have to know to get the jobs are. So let's always remember that a little bit of candy is oh so yummy, but you can't live on it 24/7. You have to have something to sustain you. So if you do find yourself a victim of being unemployed, then sometimes you just have to feel like a victim. You have to, I'm unemployed. But you also have to build a structure underneath that to where you have goals, you're meeting criteria, you're trying to get the skills, you're looking for jobs that maybe you don't qualify for today, but you're trying to find out, what do I need to do? What experience do I need to have to get that? And go find a job that's like that. So I hope to see you again in the Candy Chronicles. Please let me know if you have been unemployed and you did get employment, how you got around it, how you kind of outflanked some of those boundaries, some of those barriers that are set up before us that make it too hard to get a job. Let me know if you think this is a stupid idea and you want to call me on it. Go ahead and do that. If you see anything that's unacceptable or inappropriate, always assert that you observed that. And so I hope to see you next time at the Candy Chronicles. Thanks. Bye.